So, in all of the history of professional baseball, be it minor league, North America, Japan, Korea, wherever, there's three basics of baseball: the game itself, the fans, and snacks and drinks. Well, the game, you got the two teams. You got, 26 team players in each team. And you got the fans in most locations, 25 to 50,000 fans on average. And you go to the game and you have a choice. You can buy your Cracker Jacks, your hot dogs, pizza slices, nachos, pop. But for the inaugural season of the Blue Jays, you couldn't buy at Exhibition Stadium or the X what's considered one of the most important parts of baseball from a fan's perspective: a nice cold beer on a hot summer day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Blue Jays are owned by Labatt's, but you couldn't sell beer at the Exhibition Stadium because under regulations in Ontario, especially at sporting events, you couldn't buy beer. Now, according to an article on ca.sportsyahoo.com, thanks for allowing me to quote for a little bit of it. The opening day, of course, is well known. It snowed. The White Sox were in their crazy late 1970s apparel. They weren't wearing shorts that day, but shorter pants, and there was no beer. Now, the ban on suds came about because at the time, Toronto was called by a nickname, Toronto the Good. Now, officials of Toronto held firm to a rigid code of morality enabled by Bill Davis's provincial government, and Bill Davis is the one that helped to bring back the charter to Canada. He was the biggest supporter of Trudeau efforts with Richard Hatfield, so you have to blame Bill Davis for the charter. Now, the fact that the Blue Jays were partly owned by a brewery, according to US, Yahoo.com, CA Sports, was inconsequential. Cindy Henelman's name had been relegated to the pages of Wikipedia and the lore of Ontario politics, but for a brief period in the mid-70s, he was a lightning rod for criticizing over the province's refusal to allow the sale of beer at Exhibition Stadium. As the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations for the Ontario government, Hannibal ran point in the beer issue. By all accounts, was pretty dismissive about the whole thing. I think most of my colleagues feel not strongly one way or another, he told CBC in 77. We're saying if you don't feel strongly about it, why change things? We're conservatives after all. We don't change without being a good reason for change. Now, that attitude may seem a little stodgy in 2020, but is actually on par for the course in 77. There weren't any beer sales at sporting events in Ontario back then. Paul Godfrey, then a Metro chairman, who would later be the president of the Blue Jays, refused to ask the province to allow beer sales at Blue Jays games, and he had his fair share of supporters. That's not to say the Blue Jays didn't want beer at home games. They did, even he didn't fight the issue that heavily. The then Blue Jays president in 77, the great Peter Bavasi, told CBC the real problem occurred when fans weren't allowed to buy beer within the stadium confines. The sale of beer at major league facilities causes less problems than fan control, fan disturbances, fights, and disturbances of all kinds. When beer is not sold at the stadium, then you have monumental security problems, or as we like to say, bringing in your own. Now, Toronto Sun, which was one of the major papers at the time, hired to play in the Flyover Exhibition Stadium with a banner that read, "Good luck, Jays, now give us the beer bill," the Sun. The paper also ran a poll which got over 8,000 votes in favor of beer at the ballpark and only 300 votes against, and public outcry was loud enough that it forced the cancellation of a VIP event that was to host governmental bigwigs and serve booze at the game. So was the Blue Jays home opener in 77 dry? No, because if you go on the tape, you'll see various containers, might be liquor or otherwise, and the first chance of "We Want Beer" rang out before the opening pitch crossed the plate. This was the middle of a snowstorm, and any beer sold in the middle of a snowstorm, obviously it's going to be a little bit better because at least it warms you up a little bit. Media reports of the day indicate the aisles were ringing with the sounds of clinking flask and empty bottles smuggled in by a public desperate for a quaff with its big league baseball. Now, the hardy hometowners even drew the adoration of White Sox manager Bob Lemon, who marveled that the fans showed up at all in the snowy, windy weather. Now, lest you think the restriction was some sort of anomaly, know that the ban on beer at Blue Jays baseball games stood until August of '82. Now, I went to Exhibition Stadium for the first time in '83. I wasn't a drinker. I had the bad occasion to buy a kind of what do you call it, a container of pop, and I think it was more syrup than Coca-Cola because I was on a slushy buzz for most of the game where Kansas City and George Brett played Toronto, and unfortunately Toronto lost the game. I did see George Brett hit a home run, so that was good enough. So, but it was weird back then because the home openers going on, and CBC was doing all this reports, talking to Whitey Ford and stuff like that. And like as a disclaimer, oh yeah, by the way, there's no beer sales, and we're saying to yourself, we grew up in the Maritimes, New Brunswick, and beer is part of everything. I mean, you used to give out free coupons for Alpine beer to people at Legions. You just go in and take a dozen on us. Molson would bring in beer reps that were Montreal Canadiens or Toronto Maple Leafs to talk to kids. Smoke them if you got them, as I like to say. I know smoking was allowed, but no beer. And not really sure exactly what the security protocol was back then because, who were the security guards that say don't bring in liquor? Could you not carry liquor? What are the rules about being caught with liquor? Would you be charged? I mean, how can you charge 10,000 people? Anyway, the mind boggles. So thanks for listening. This is one of the latest, and we're doing early Toronto Blue Jays folklore and lore. If you have any requests, please let me know. I'm thinking about trying to find something on the Don Chevrolet CBC announcing for the Blue Jays because, as you know, Don Chevrolet was all over the place back in the day. He even helped out Howard Cosell towards the tail end of his career. Thanks for listening. Bye.